5 days in the Lake District. In the northwest of England, in the county of Cumbria, lies a region known as the Lake District. Spanning over 900 square miles, it is arguably the most picturesque, peaceful, and awe-inspiring landscape in all of England. Settled between its 16 lakes, you'll find welcoming small villages, some unique local delicacies, and thousands of epic hiking routes conveniently suited for all skill levels. In this video, I'm inviting you to join me during my time here, showing you 4 very different hiking experiences, food you won't want to miss, all the best villages to visit on your way, and how certainly not to row a boat. Plus, at the end, I'll list off my personal top tips for everything that I wish I knew before embarking on this trip. I'm Rosie, and this is Travel with Roise, spending 5 days in England's Lake District. Day 1. Arrival and Ambleside. After several hours of driving, we finally arrived at our accommodation in Ambleside. Now, there is an abundance of great places to stay in the Lake District, but we chose this location due to its reasonable price, close proximity to water, and central location to most of the sites we wanted to visit. Just a short walk from our front door sat Lake Windermere. Stretching over 10 miles, Windermere is England's largest lake, with Ambleside marking its northernmost point. Since we arrived mid-afternoon, today was more about getting familiar with our local area. After a 20-minute wander, we explored Ambleside's main town. There are arguably 2 local foods that you have to try when in the Lake District, and the first was found in this sweet shop. Sitting alongside some lovely-looking fudge and chocolate was Kendal mint cake, a peppermint-flavoured snack made mostly out of sugar and glucose. It's considered the original energy bar and is still popular with climbers and hikers today. Taste-wise, there's not much like it to be fair, so it's definitely worth a try for the experience. It's very minty, and even though the first bite is relatively hard, the glucose dissolves quickly, filling your mouth with sugary goodness. To set the scene for this vlog, I am by no means an experienced hiker, so any energy boost I could get from Kendal mint cake would be appreciated. There was a very real chance that at least one of us would collapse during this trip. Day 2. Grasmere and Helm Crag. Our first full day would be to my favourite village in the Lake District, and it would also mark the starting point to our first hike. Looking out our window, it seemed the weather was still on our side. The Lake District is, after all, the wettest part of England. We sat down for a full English breakfast, then made our way to Grasmere. It was still early in the morning, and we quickly moved past all the interesting spots as we'd return here later. Our immediate goal was to reach the summit of Helm Crag. Rising 405 metres, this is a relatively popular hike, so we thought it best to start here, since if we did have a heart attack, there would be someone nearby. Indeed, one of my favourite things about being on a countryside walk is that moment where you pass another human being. This man here actually acknowledged my existence. We certainly weren't in London anymore. Armed with the motivation of a total stranger saying hello, we carried that through our footsteps towards Helm Crag. It was on our way back to Grasmere that I started to draw similarities to our time in the Cotswolds, where you would see houses made out of the local land. In this region, it is slate that peppers the landscape, visually tying all villages together. As mentioned before, Grasmere was my favourite village, and probably the most popular in the county. It's well known for shops, art galleries, pubs, cafes, and just generally everything you would want from an English countryside village. Grasmere was also home to the poet William Wordsworth, one of the founders of English Romanticism, in the late 18th century. His house and grave are both within walking distance. We also stopped by at this lovely little cafe that overlooked the river below. A tasty spread of simple food dishes made for a great lunch, and we certainly hit the jackpot with our seats. Grasmere is also home to the second quintessential food that you have to try when in the lakes, that being Sarah Nelson's Grasmere Gingerbread, which is the best gingerbread you're ever likely to taste. Sarah started baking the spicy, chewy gingerbread in 1854 in this very cottage and selling it to the locals. That tradition still continues today, albeit with queues and a slightly wider net of customers. It's different to any other gingerbread that I've tried before, and if you're not usually a fan, I think it's still worth checking out as you may be surprised. The recipe is a heavily guarded secret and can only be bought here or through their website. Still, with some time in the day, we made the short drive up to Thirlmere. If it's on your way, I would definitely suggest this stop, as it's a quick walk down to the shore and provides the perfect respite. Day 3. Keswick and Derwentwater. Looking out our window, it seemed like a cloudy but dry day. This gave me all the motivation needed to indulge in a full English breakfast. But the big news was that my feet were still holding up, so we were ready to go again. Today's journey would be a little different. The goal was to visit Keswick, an old market town that sits at the top of Derwentwater. To encourage another picturesque walk, we purposely parked the car at the south end and walked alongside the lake for a couple of hours. This is a really simple, flat walk with the views, making every step worth it. One interesting note to point out here is that out of its 16 lakes, only one is officially a lake by name, Bassenthwaite Lake, with the rest being meres or waters. But although there are some technical differences, I wouldn't get too hung up on the naming outside of it being kind of interesting. Likewise, I used the term mountain earlier, and although technically true in some circles, the word fell is actually more appropriate, especially in the Lake District. At the north end of Derwentwater, you'll find Keswick, a pretty small town that hosts a popular market running every Thursday and Saturday. Similar to Grasmere, you'll find plenty of hiking shops, art galleries, and pub grub. But it was whilst in Keswick that I clocked onto just how many dogs there are up in the lakes. They are everywhere. Take this clip here, for example. For the eagle-eyed, you can count them. There are 12 dogs within eyesight. And when you're trying to set up that perfect Insta shot, they just wander by without a care in the world. One thing that can be fun, however, is the opportunity to impress a loved one with your rowing skills on Derwentwater. This hour had all the romance of DiCaprio in the Titanic. And yes, it did have more in common with the end of that movie. But it took me 30 minutes to realise that rowing a boat backwards is a lot easier than rowing it forwards. So do keep that in mind. Day 4. Aira Force and Bonus. With blue skies outside, I perused the many choices on the menu, finally opting for the full English breakfast. After 2 full days of walking, the body was no longer 100%. But today would turn out to be our best hike yet. Our first destination was to Aira Force Waterfall, probably the most popular fall in the Lake District. This 65 to 70 foot drop is only a few minutes from the nearby car park. Although it's this waterfall that gets the glory, it's worth pointing out that there's more to see just a 10-minute walk north up the river. It's much more quiet and spread out here, with countless mini-falls making an area greater than the sum of its parts. After a brief rest, we made our way north again. We knew when we started that this would be our longest hike so far, but we were yet to learn that it would also become our favourite. Later that evening for dinner, we visited the 2 most popular built-up areas of Bowness and its neighbour, Windermere Village. Bowness is the hub for sailing and water sports, and by far has the most restaurants, pubs, and things to do. The world of Beatrix Potter is one of the most famous attractions here, especially for those with children. We mostly used these 2 locations as dining hotspots, which I'll say more about in the tips section at the end of this video. Day 5. Easedale, Tarn. Our last day was a cloudy and damp one, and my entire body had given up. There was only one way to push through, and that was a hearty breakfast. We had one last challenge to climb, so we gritted our teeth and started to hike. Our final goal would be to reach Easedale Tarn, a peaceful glacial lake that's believed to have filled with water when the ice melted around 11,000 years ago. Tips and things I wish I knew, so I think it's pretty easy to say that we had a great time in the Lake District, and now I'd just like to share some things that I wish I'd known before visiting, which will hopefully make your trip a little easier. If you yourself have visited the Lake District, then please share your tips as well, as these are all based on just our one experience. If you've gotten this far, please also leave a like below since it really helps the channel, and subscribe if you enjoy this sort of travel vlog. And with that, let's dive right into it. So I'll start with some tips specifically for visiting Grasmere, since if you are short on time, this is where I would suggest you visit. Our first and last hike started from here, so it really does have everything. To park the car specifically for hiking, I'd suggest parking at one of the local spots, where parking fees can often be redeemed for food and drink. It was a great rest spot after the hike. Now, we walked past the gingerbread shop 4 times, and it always had a long queue, apart from its last hour of trading. It was tasty enough, though, that it still would have been worth the wait, but do bear the queues in mind. There was also a side entrance that people didn't seem to be aware of that sold most of the same products as inside, so do check if that's open too. The accommodation we stayed at was literally in the middle of everything we visited in this video. Grasmere, Ambleside, and Bowness were all a 15-minute drive away, with Keswick and Aira being 30 and 40 minutes away. The included breakfast was clearly very good. Lake Windermere was just a minute away, along with its ferry that can take you further south. I'll leave a link in the description below to check prices for your dates, along with other options in the area. England is becoming more and more a cashless society, which personally speaking for me is great. But for international tourists, just something to keep in mind as several places wouldn't take any cash at all. Amongst others, the pub we visited in Keswick was card only. The gingerbread shop was card only, and even the entrance fee for the public toilets were all contactless. But don't melt your gold down just yet. On the flip side, some parking machines are still coins only, so it's worth having a stack of change in the morning. Most machines did have options, but the one we parked at for Derwentwater was coins only. It's also definitely worth downloading both the Pay by Phone parking and Ringo app before arrival. Between them both, they covered most car parks and allow you to top up your meter remotely. I say download them before, since the countryside isn't known for its fast internet speeds, and downloading a large app is not fun on slow data. Overall, on the subject of driving, I actually found the roads to be a lot easier to drive than, say, the Cotswold trip that we had last year. There weren't as many tiny countryside roads, and all destinations were connected by dual carriageway. As a direct comparison to the Cotswolds as a holiday, I think the landscapes are definitely more epic in the Lake District, but the Cotswolds feels more uniquely English, if that makes any sense. So it depends on what is more important to you as a countryside getaway. Also, for the countryside, I was actually very surprised by how many buses there were. It clearly wasn't London frequency, but they seemed good enough that you could do most of what we did without a car. It would lose a lot of the convenience, obviously, but I'd be interested to hear in the comments below how people have found using buses around this region. One village that didn't make this vlog was Glenridding. This was a lovely little place, just a few minutes' drive from Aira Waterfall. We found a nice little coffee shop to refresh our energy levels, and it was perfect as a quick stop. Not that this was a massive issue, but there were a couple of nights where it was hard to find a table at a restaurant. So if you really have your heart set on somewhere in particular, book ahead when possible, even if it's just a few hours. Despite a seemingly long queue, the place we did visit in Windermere was great, and I would recommend it if you're in the area. The staff were switched on and efficient, the vibe good, and the food really tasty and reasonably priced. For any novice hikers out there like myself, here's a few potentially obvious but definitely useful tips. For all our routes, we used the All Trails app. It's how I found most of the treks in the first place, and then how we navigated them on the day. There is a paid pro version which allows you to download the map for offline use, but for us, we had just enough signal that we were able to follow the routes easily. Second, bring plenty of water. We just bought a bunch of bottles on day 1, and then refilled them with tap water each day after. Plus, Kendal mint cake really does give you an energy kick. Do not underestimate it. There are loads of hiking shops in every town and village we visited that all stock anything you don't already have and didn't even know you needed. And generally, we found that with such competition, they usually were pretty well priced, so buying at the last minute isn't necessarily the worst idea. Hiking boots are the number one, but we also bought some hiking socks while we were there, and they really help too. I've also heard enough people rave about walking sticks that I'm sure they make a difference. Prices for those range from around £10 to over £100, so I'll leave that choice up to you. So congratulations on making it to the end. Please leave a like and a comment below, which tells YouTube to suggest this to more people like yourself. I'm Rosie, and we will see you in the next adventure. Thanks for watching Travel with Roise.